Hello, welcome to the Tillamook County Pioneer podcast series, Get to Know Your Local Nonprofit. We are here with Kari Henningsgaard of the Wildlife Center of the North Coast, and she is going to describe her mission. She's going to tell you a little bit about some of the upcoming events that you might have. But before I ramble on too much, I'm going to let Kari take it.
Yes, so the Wildlife Center of the North Coast is a nonprofit wildlife rehabilitation and conservation education center. So our mission is promoting compassion, empathy, and respect for all life through wildlife rehabilitation, ecological teachings, and wildlife conservation. We've been around since 1997. We were founded by a woman named Charnel Fee. She heard there was a need for seabird rehabilitation specifically on the Oregon coast. So she drove here, purchased our property that we're still on today, and started the Wildlife Center. And she passed away in 2015, but we're still here continuing the work that she started 26 years ago. Yeah, helping wildlife. We serve the North Oregon coast, so all of Clatsop and Tillamook counties.
That's beautiful. I actually knew Charnel very well and was a longtime volunteer I want to say almost 20 years ago now. So
Wonderful.
yeah, I mean, for the audience who's not maybe familiar with what wildlife rehabilitation is, why don't you give them just a quick background of um, what the animals need, what's required for care, just so that they can kind of understand what that entails.
Sure. So the first kind of step of wildlife rehabilitation is the rescue. Typically, this happens anytime somebody's out in nature. Commonly on the beach, you come across an animal that seems to be struggling or is in need of some help. You give our wildlife hotline a call, and we figure out a way to get that animal to our facility. Usually that's with the help of volunteers. So we have volunteers the whole length of the coast that help rescue these animals and bring them into our hospital. Once they come in for care, they're given an intake exam and evaluation. So our rehabilitation staff looks them over, finds the source of the problem, what might have been causing their distress, whether that's a fracture, a broken bone, maybe they're just dehydrated, malnourished, and then a care plan is created for each patient that comes in. During their care here, they're given diets that are appropriate. If they need to gain weight, they have an appropriate nutritional component and whatever they need. If they have fractures or things that can be repaired, they're given wing wraps. We have also a volunteer veterinarian that comes in once a week to help with more advanced cases, can do surgeries and things like that. And then
Wonderful.
these animals just stay with us for as long as necessary until they're deemed healthy enough to return, and then they are released exactly where they were found.
That's fantastic. One of the most memorable experiences for me at the Wildlife Center, I mean, they're all so incredible. And if you have a chance, definitely schedule a time to come and check out the center because it's a beautiful facility, but also you'll never get closer to these animals. There was a bobcat that had been injured, I think, by a car, and they built a special enclosure just for that bobcat. And I won't tell you about the special diet that it received, but it did receive an appropriate diet. And it was there for several months until it was recovered enough to be released back into the wild. So there are so many animals that I'm sure come your way. What is your most memorable experience at the center?
My most memorable experience at the center, it's hard at this point, right? Because I've been here for a few years, so I have so many. Um, but I think releases are always super special. So that's like the best part is when we get to see these animals kind of going back into the wild. And this past early fall, we got to do a release with a local preschool. So we released 6 white pelicans out onto Youngs Bay. And there were dozens of 1 through 4-year-olds that got to participate in that and watch these animals get released back out into the wild. And it was just really precious. So that was a really fun thing that happened this year. That
Adorable.
was pretty sweet.
That's very, very cute. You, from my memory, which forgive me, is pretty foggy because that was a long time ago that I was there. So if I misspeak, please correct me. But from my memory, you have a pretty high need for volunteers. You have daily cage cleaning, you daily feeding, multiple times a day feeding, lots of linens. So I'm guessing you probably want to speak to our audience about how they might be able to participate or donate. And what are your biggest needs from the community?
Yeah, our biggest needs from the community are just that volunteers, and then of course donations. For volunteers, we have a core team of on-site volunteers that come weekly. Typically they'll come once a week, but we really try to work with people's schedules, and that's working directly in the clinic with the wildlife, preparing diets, cleaning, of course, and laundry. But another big need for volunteers, and especially down in Tillamook County, is the transport volunteers. We're frequently getting calls from people that are, in Pacific City, and they're on the beach and they can't stay there. They've got a bird, it's injured, and we need to get somebody there as soon as we can. And so being up here in Astoria, having volunteers down, south of us that we can call on to go out and check the situation quickly, because the quicker somebody gets there, the more likely that patient has a good shot at getting rescued and rehabilitated. So for volunteers, yeah, that's a huge need. And then donations were, there's no state or federal funding for wildlife rehabilitation in Oregon. So everything that we operate on comes from donations and grants. Specifically this time of year, we have what's that?
Um, that's can you just go back 3 seconds?
Sorry.
There's no federal, no, what you just said is incredible and very disturbing. There's no federal or state funding for wildlife rehabilitation.
No.
Did I hear that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, not
That's
in Oregon
terrible.
at this time. Yeah, it's some states there is. In Oregon, there's no money set aside for it.
Now,
So
if an animal from, let's say somebody gets a hunting license and forgive me, this is going to be very crude as an analogy. Let's say somebody gets a hunting license and they're a new hunter, and maybe they think that their compound bow is going to be strong enough to take an animal out, and they end up injuring the animal. The animal comes to you. So the funds from the hunting tag do not pay for any rehabilitation for animals that are injured. There's nothing within the DMV for the car licensing that pays for the animals that are injured by cars. It's just on donations.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a call to action. Write your senator, because that's deeply messed up. So please write your local representative and your senator, because that should change. But continue.
Okay.
So yes, there's clearly a need for donations, and I'm assuming there's a lot of grant writing that you do.
Yeah, thankfully we have a great team and volunteers. So if that's a skill that you want to put to good use, we have a team of volunteer grant writers too that help us out tremendously with that. So that's, I mean, we, we'll take that skill if that's one that you have also. And then, yeah, I mean, an easy and simple way to give back to is our Amazon wish list. We go through, especially this time of year, a lot of cleaning supplies. And so there's lots of things on there that we're in need of. that is a super simple way to help us out. It really, every little thing really does help us continue the work that we're doing. We also always are, taking donations of towels, sheets, depending on the current patient load and what we need. So, so things that you might already have that you're getting rid of. Towels in particular, we go through a lot of towels. We use them for substrate on the cages. Of course, they get kind of torn up by talons and animals and everything. And so we go through those a lot too. So if that's something that you're getting rid of, that's an easy way to help us out also.
Beautiful. Well, that's a really great overview of your organization. Why don't we leave people with some of the, I mean, we've explained what you do and why you're important and how they can contribute, but I think some people maybe don't understand the scale and scope of the issue. And there are seasonal trends that come with wildlife injuries and the need for a rehabilitation center, especially for some of these more sensitive species that require specialized care. I've seen bald eagles, owls. I've seen pretty much every animal that you see out in the wild, I've seen at the wildlife center. So why don't you explain a little bit about how that seasonality works?
Yeah, that's a really great question. We do get fluctuations seasonally in patients this time of year in the winter. Like right now, currently, we just got rid of, not got rid, but we just released several common murres. And so those are a common seabird species that nest on the Oregon coast. They had been here for several months. They were rescued back when the seabirds were fledging at the end of August. And so this time of year in particular, it's been busy for a while because we came out of seabird season at the end of August and we'd been caring for those, and now we're moving into winter. So we just got a bunch of northern fulmars, which is common for this winter time. So yeah, it really it really does fluctuate, but this time of year we're sort of in a transitional time where we're starting to see these more common winter species come in. So things that are getting storm tossed, it's getting darker earlier. So we tend to get more things hit by cars this time of year because things are out flying when people are driving more frequently and it's dark. Owls in particular tend to be a common one we get this time of year. And then as we move into the new year, we'll have a very short reprieve, likely when it's a little bit more quiet. And then as soon as spring hits, it just ramps up tenfold because you have populations that are reproducing and a lot more wildlife out there to be rescued. So
That's a really great overview. And obviously there are so many more complex issues that I'm sure you do educational tours. So if you want the deep dive into these issues, go to the center and call ahead still. I think it's still like you have to schedule. You shouldn't just show up because there are days and hours that volunteers are welcome. We'll make sure to a link to your website and make sure that we get the address out there for people. But just really quickly, in case people want that address now, where is the center located?
So we are at 89686 Highway 202 in Astoria. We're just 9 miles east of Astoria in Olney. It's a rural community just outside of Astoria. And yes, we don't have open hours where the public can stop in just because we're so busy and schedules and things change, but you can now book online tours to come visit us. So do check out our website and see that you can book it online.
What's
And
that
we
URL?
also, what's up?
What's the URL for that?
It's www.coastwildlife.org. I think it's /visit us, but it'll say up on the menu. once you
Don't
get to
try
our
to do the
homepage.
backslash, just go to the
Yeah,
homepage first. Yeah.
it's something.
Navigating submenus is hard.
Yeah, and then another cool thing that we've been doing is encounters with our ambassadors. So we do have 3 non-releasable birds that live with us full time due to injuries they sustained in the wild. They weren't able to be released, but their health is good enough that they do live here full time to teach, the community about their species. And one of those is a double-crested cormorant named Cormy, and she is fantastic. And so we've been doing Cormy encounters, and so you can schedule those on our website as well. Where you kind of get an up close interaction and see her training firsthand.
That's wonderful.
Mhm.
That's really wonderful. So we're almost up on our timing, so I want to respect your time, but if there's anything that you'd like to leave the audience with that we didn't cover, please do. You can also get back to me after this if you forget something, and I'll include that in the supplementary article that will go with this on the TillamookCountyPioneer.net. Please read it. And if you found this uh, podcast and you didn't find the Pioneer, I would love to hear from you, like how you're searching for these things. But please leave our audience with something that is maybe the most important thing that you would like to share.
Gosh, that's a great question. We covered a whole lot, but I think just thanking the community for helping us with our work, because the community is such an important part of what we do. When you're out exploring, even this time of year, and you do come across an animal that seems to be in distress, please give us a call. Don't hesitate to reach out, even if you're not sure, because we can
And don't
provide
touch it,
guidance.
right? Yeah, like maybe some basic things like don't touch it, don't try to catch it, don't corner it,
Yeah.
um, don't put it in your car randomly. And unless you get training and you know how to do that, there are people out there who have training. Message is not for you. This is for don't let your kids near it, don't let your dog near it, and give it space.
Give
So
it space, but do please give us a call so that we can figure out how to help also.
perfect. And what's that telephone number?
It's 503-338-0331.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Kari. That was such a lovely interview, and I really absolutely love your organization. It might be one of my favorite nonprofits I've ever encountered. And Charnel was a true angel. She, for those of you that don't know her history, she actually funded it herself. She didn't get grant funding. She paid her retirement funding and was there 24/7 on site, helping these animals, building the cages herself. She got donations very minimally in those first years, and it would not exist without her and the people that she brought into that team. So um, it was a sad loss when she passed away too soon. But thank you so much for your time, and we're definitely going to have a good time with this one. I'm going to do some fancy editing, and then you'll see it up on the TillamookCountyPioneer.net. I'll try to clip in some imagery of the center, because I feel like the visuals on this will be are what's going to sell it, and I want people to donate and go and volunteer. So thank you so much, and I hope you tune into the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.